So another word that you just used was trust. St. Maximus has revealed so much to you, so much insight, etc., that you trust what he has to say. Now, another aspect of me is that I'm a contrarian. I'm so contrarian that I go against what people who think of themselves as contrarian, what they believe. So
You're
most
double
yes,
contrarian.
exactly. To the point where I'm too iconoclastic. Like it's often said in our culture, oh, dogma is the worst. Okay.
Yeah.
Even Ian McGilchrist said this, like dogma is the only thing that's incorrect. And I'm like, that's dogmatic, even for you to say that. Anyhow, so I'm curious what the upsides of dogma are.
So the dogma is useful. That's I think that it's the best way to understand it. So in the Orthodox tradition, we have a sense that we have this apophatic idea of God, which is that God is non-being, that all characteristics of God are always uh, have to be couched in the negative, right? They're never absolutely positive descriptions of God. They're always, in some ways, mostly safeguards, you know. And the dogmatic tradition in Christianity, and this is something people forget, is always developed in reaction to heresy. It's always developed in reaction to error,
Hmm.
and it is never proposed positively at the outset. So this is also one of the problems with Bart Ehrman and his kind of thinking, which is that he thinks that people normally tell the world what they believe explicitly, but that is not the case. At least I don't think that's the case in Christianity. Christianity tends to expose its positive statements as just a bulwark towards error, right? And so that's how you have to understand dogma is as bulwark towards error and not as statements that encapsulate the fullness of the truth. And if you see it that way, then it's helpful. So for example, if you look at a lot of the dogmatic pronunciations of the councils in the church, they are there usually to do one thing. They're there at the one hand to preserve the divinity of Christ, the fact that Christ is fully God, and on the other hand, they're there to preserve the humanity of Christ, to make sure that Christ is fully human. And then thirdly, to preserve the unity of those two aspects. Now, people will squabble and fight, but when people push too hard and want to make Christ into a divine figure that was just a floating ghost that didn't totally have a body, then the Christian will say, no, that's an error. That's an error. And if someone tries to say, well, Christ wasn't really divine, he was created, he was, that he didn't have a fully uncreated nature, then Christians will say, no, that's wrong. And it's usually to avoid the mistake, which is that the reality of the incarnation for Christians is the anchor that holds reality together. It's the thing that holds heaven and earth together. It is the perfect union of the invisible and the visible world. It's the perfect union of the uncreated and the created, of the unoriginate and the originated. And therefore, it has to be preserved at all costs. And that's the best way to understand dogma is as kind of fences to prevent people from saying something wrong. Because if you go in the wrong direction, there are consequences to going in the wrong direction. If you overemphasize, let's say, the
Hmm.
humanity of the incarnation, right, then you move towards idiosyncrasy. You move down into phenomena in a way that can lose itself and become and scatter. If you emphasize the divinity of Christ, of the incarnation, too much, then you have a tendency of pulling things out of the world, pulling them into unity, to do that kind of thing where the idea, for example, that, and you hear people do that in everyday life, it's like the idea that you have to escape the world, right? You have to escape this reality. This is all of this is evil and broken and falling, and the purpose of humanity is to get out of here, like just right. And that's not Christianity. Christianity is incarnational. And so that's the purpose of dogma. It's very important. So the same with like the Trinitarian dogma. Trinitarian dogma is always,
So dogma is an armor.
yeah, it's just to prevent you from making a mistake.
Okay, and is this one of the reasons why? Because I conceptualize dogma as what's inviolable. Like this cannot be violated. This is a sanctum. So this is a principle that I'm not willing to compromise on. But
Dogma
then,
is the opposite of sanctum. Like, actually, even in terms of what the word means. The the let's say the dogma are the things that, in the way that we use the word dogma today, they are the official external pronunciations of the church, right? The church pronounces itself on a specific issue explicitly and says this is the judgment of the church on that issue. The sanctum, or this the sacred, is the hidden, secret, unspeakable aspect of revelation. And the dogma is there to protect the sanctum, but it's not the sanctum.
huh,
It's not the highest thing. It's to avoid you mistaking the highest thing, so that you don't think that, like Trinitarian theology is a good example. It's like, if you push towards too much towards the unity of God, then you have a kind of monism that has consequences in the world. And if you push too much towards the multiplicity of God, then you've got paganism, and then you've got the gods fighting amongst each other. And the Trinity is, and Trinitarian doctrine is there to express a paradox, yes, but a paradox that grounds the world ontologically as the perfect balance of unity and multiplicity.